Imagine a league built by the people, for the people. A league dedicated to the economic development of your city. So the question becomes, how good are the 32 teams that play in the minor football league? Well, there's only one way to find out. You have to experience the MFL.
Welcome to another edition of Inside the MFL. I'm your host, Dr. Richard D. Myles, CEO, Chairman, and Founder of the Minor Football League. I'm excited about being here today, although y'all take precaution because this is a snowy day. Okay, you finally got the snow before Christmas, but I want y'all to take care. Make sure you wear your face mask because it's very important that y'all do that. I understand they're supposed to have a back serum, but until you all get it, or whether you take it or not, it's up to y'all. But you have to keep on taking precaution wearing your face mask because you don't want to catch nothing, or perhaps maybe you have something, give it to somebody else. But today's show, we're talking about Inside the MFL. And as you know, the MFL is the laboratory of change. We want to bring former players from the field to the front office. Also opportunity for young men and young ladies at whatever type of business you're in terms of sports management, broadcast, journalism, marketing, PR, these type of things. And for young men, they're interested in pursuing their football career. You have a great opportunity with the Minor Football League, which we're excited to be a part of. So I'm really excited about the season. And as you know, we will be celebrating 25 years of the Minor Football League. But as you know, we did take a break this season as opposed to going because we want to make sure all these young men and everybody a part of MFL Nation is safe out there. We don't want to take no chance with no one going out there and catching a virus because they want to play football. The MFL is the laboratory of change, meaning that these are the types of things that we're doing in the MFL. I just want to point out to y'all, I'm glad that we have a new president. I want to thank all the people that came out and voted because the people spoke. And that's something that we really need to do in order to get someone in there that really understand the fight that people going through, whether, whatever nationality you are, we have someone that's not gonna take one side or those type of things. So we're excited about it. And we're excited about the MFL. And this year, as you know, we have 16 franchises that will be playing over in Africa in 2021. We're excited about that. Also, all the franchises that we have, the 16 in the United States, we are excited about. I mean, everybody, we're getting ready. Although it look like we're not doing anything, believe me, we're doing an awful lot to prepare for this season. So the 21 season. So we're excited about it. And we look forward to when things get back, basically where, everything is safe to come out there for our 2021 combines. We're excited about people calling and getting a lot of information about the league and, going to the website, going to our social media page and stuff. We're really excited about this. So we want everybody to understand that the laboratory change means that, you're talking about economic development, jobs. And we know the trying times that we've been through with this 2020, along with this COVID-19. We understand that it was something that that really, unfortunately, caused a lot of deaths in this country, and a lot of me myself, I can identify with it because I had family men and loved ones to really get be victims of this. So we're excited about it, and we want people to understand that please take precaution with this, because this is not over, and it's going to get it's going to get worse before it get better. I got my guest here, my co-host, Mr. Robert Gatewood. How you doing there, sir?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, there, Myles. I'm doing great. How you doing today?
Oh man, I'm blessed because we got up this morning. Could have been the other way around. And there you go. And as I was saying earlier, Mr. Gatewood, that we're glad that things are, getting a little normalcy with it, because we understand what's going on with this. And I know that, but we still continue. We want people to understand that, you still got to go to work, and you just have to be more careful.
Yeah, we're adjusting to without sounding cliche, a new normal. And I'm not sure we're ever going back to the way things were. And then I often have to ask myself, do we really want things to go back to normal? Because what we have discovered is that during this pandemic, we've discovered new efficiencies, new opportunities. We've made new relationships. We've cast aside some of the things that we were doing in the past that weren't necessarily in our best interest. Some people are actually healthier. Some people have found ways to work out and pick up new routines. So I think that's the old, I think it's the innate in us to find that silver lining in the cloud. And many people have done that. I know personally in my business, in the area where I work in business development, I've seen so many new businesses launched, and many that were already existing have pivoted and found new income streams and better ways to do things. Some are hiring, some have gone out and got money through government loans. And so it's a bittersweet. It's some things people have lost their lives, and that's never good. But I think for the people that are still here, like you said, we have to find ways to soldier on and make the best of a bad situation.
I have to, say Robert is our business guru, because he understands more than most people understand business, and how to run business and to do things the right way. But I saw something on, it was brought to my attention this week. I wonder if you read that, knowing you probably know about it, about all the black banks getting together and loan the Atlanta Hawks all this money. They're talking about it's history, that the fact that black banks all got together to make this big loan. Now, you have all these black businesses that don't get an opportunity. Well, maybe you can help me with that, bring some clarity to this madness. If you're going to loan them money to people that don't need money, loan it to them, and you make a big deal out like you did something great. And, I really don't, that I'll never understand.
I think one of the challenges, Myles, is that many of the small businesses, lack of a better term, just haven't taken care of their paperwork. And banks have a very, hard, fast business model, and they are risk averse, as we like to call it. They want to feel like they can get their money back, and no matter how desperately you need that money, if you can't prove to them or demonstrate in some tangible fashion how you're going to get that, how you can return that money, then you're going to always be on the outside. And unfortunately, small companies who don't have the luxury of hiring a CPA or bookkeepers, in some cases, just time to do it, they have not been able to find that information to get it together and to provide those numbers and pitch decks that people need to look at. Like an investor right now, somebody who's looking to give out money, whether it's a bank, they want to see either a business plan or at the minimum a pitch deck that demonstrates what the market is, how much money they're trying to get, how they plan to pay it back, their target audience, and so forth. And a lot of small companies just don't have the means and the resources. Now, a big organization like the Atlanta Hawks or these big organizations, of course, they have a whole department of financial guys sitting around spitting out they can spit out numbers on a dime. So it just points out some of the inequities in society and some of the unique challenges that small companies face, and why when they do finally get money, which happened in a lot of cases with the during the CARES Act and the stimulus package, some were able to get that money and go out and lay down some of that infrastructure they needed to get additional money. I mean, now they can hire an accountant, they can hire a CPA, they can hire a bookkeeper, they get somebody to do their financial statements. Now they can actually go to a bank if they need money in the future to get maybe a line of credit. So it's the old cycle, Myles, that we have to break. We just have to break that cycle so that we get these small companies. That's my daily struggle, Dr. Myles, is that I'm trying to get these small companies to that point where they can go out and go to a bank. They can go out and find an investor or a venture capitalist and lend them that money that they so desperately needed to move to that next level. So it's a complicated problem that it's persistent, but I think once again during the pandemic we're working on it, and maybe as we tackle some of these other challenges that small companies face, we can tackle that one as well.
Well, I also want to bring on Mr. Melvin Forbes, our Chief Strategy Officer. He's on. How you doing today, sir?
I'm fine, sir. I apologize for my dilatoriness. With the weather and everything, I had to deal with.
Absolutely. Oh, we know. Yeah. As you can and listening, I know you was on deck. We're talking about. You might not have heard it, but knowing you know about it. We were just talking about the fact that all these black banks raving about they all unite together to loan the Atlanta Hawks all this money, and you have black businesses that can't get a loan from these black banks, but they want us to put our money there, but they don't want to loan us money, but they want you to bank with a black bank come there. Why is that, Mr. Forbes?
Well, I think it's a combination of thinking that an old model is going to work in a new day. You never put new wine in old wine bottles. We're in the 21st century, and there's nothing that in the 21st century in terms of a solution. I mean, in the 21st century, you can't take a model that you used in the 20th century and apply it in the 21st century. We're in a new day. We have economical challenges like we've never been faced with before. We have, at the same time, a pandemic that is creating all kind of havoc. We have racial awareness in terms of how African Americans have been treated, and historically we know that we've always been treated less than what we should have been treated. So what you've got is a perfect storm, but in every storm there is a solution, and I believe what is missing, Mr. Gatewood was hitting on it, and Dr. Myles, is that we have to take the experiences of the past, coupled with the opportunity of the present to meet the challenges of the future. Now, what am I saying? We've got to create other systems that will birth industries that create jobs. My point being, an 8-track tape, and I hope our young audience is listening, but an 8-track tape was something that had music, and we used to put it in the car. Then it went from an 8-track to a cassette. Then it's a CD. Then it's an MP3. Now we're streaming. All those elements had one common denominator. They all provided music. Now, we don't tear up the institutions, but we got to change the institutions. And you change the institutions by saying, let's take a look at what we know. And here's what we know. We know that what you have and have done doesn't work for us because the policies that you have in place don't work for us. The financial algorithms that you put in place don't work for us. And even the laws that you had in place didn't work for us. So now how do you expect us? We just trying to survive, and we can never thrive. Now they put us in a survival mode, which is where really the country is now, if you really want to be honest. until we, and listen, I don't want to get political, but the truth of the matter is we're at a time that we've never seen as a country, as America has never experienced, where we have almost a turmoil of the passing of the torch from one president to the new president. So couple that with the fact that I think it was Jesse Jackson said one time back in the day, he said, when America catches a cold, black folks got pneumonia. Because we are always going to be less than what others have. So the solution is this. We know that we have enough intellectual capital to build this country because we did. We know we've got enough creativity to do almost anything that needs to be done because we've shown it in every genre, from sports to business. I mean, look at you, Dr. Myles. You created the minor football league. Now, that's historic within itself. Let's keep it real.
Amen.
You know, you didn't just play the game, you learned the game and then brought the game back to the community and say, look here, y'all, let me show you what I found. Now, you and I both know that it takes a long time to re-educate folk in America, especially when they're accustomed to doing things a certain way. But here's what I know for certain. You can't stop change. If there's one thing that's inevitable, it's change. So, yeah, they have taken their systems and it's working the way it's supposed to work, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. So here's what we got to do. We got to come up with our system. When you think of all the trillions of dollars that we spend, just with, let's not talk about what others have, let's talk about what we got. The African-American diaspora. If we could somehow, and I know it's not easy, because if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. Am I right, Dr. Gatewood? Everybody would be
absolutely
doing it. So, but see, Dr. Gatewood, he's trying, part of this is the informational element. So we got to inform them that, listen, if we continue to put our resources together, if we continue to educate you on what we're doing with your resources and show you how we can take those resources and keep them within the system that we create, then we will flourish. And the banks will come to us. We don't have to go to them. Now, it's not, is it easy? Absolutely not. Is it doable? Yes, we can. And I believe that that's really what we got to try to do.
Well,
you know what, Melvin,
yes,
you have nailed it on the head. You know, the challenge, Melvin, is that we have these institutions, many that were created during slavery, when we didn't even have a right to vote or actually really have a life. And they made the rules really to sustain the status quo. And every now and then we muscle up enough might or money or willpower to finally get over that threshold, and then the yardstick moves. We keep seeing the yardstick move further and further down the road. And that's why we have to take a full frontal approach. We have to take a holistic approach to tackle this problem. We have to tackle it financially, politically, spiritually, and our community has to really support itself, because that yardstick is never going to be fixed. It's going to continue to move along with in the system that we're in. And so when I was using the example of the Dr. Myles asked about why can't the small businesses get the money? Because like you said, Melvin, they're operating in a system that was designed to do exactly what it's doing. That was made, it's working like a charm.
Right. It's almost, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, it's almost like I grew up on a farm, right? I grew up on a farm, North Carolina, 13 brothers and sisters. Well, we were sharecroppers, Dr. Myles, which means we worked the land, but we didn't own the land. Right. When I became 5 years old, my mother told my father, we ain't doing this no more. So we moved to a shack. We moved out of a very nice house because the gentleman who owned the land wanted to make sure we had a better house than he had because we were taking care of his land, but we didn't own it. So when we moved to a shack. And when I say a shack, I mean a shack. But after about 4 years, that shack was better than the house that we had moved from, and we owned it. What am I saying? You cannot continue doing the same thing the same way and think you're going to get a different results. It's called insanity. There was a report done by Yale University. I'll send it to you all, that talked about entrepreneurship when it was first developed. Do you all know that entrepreneurship was not really developed for us? It really was developed for, the Caucasian community. But the rules were different. I found it about a week ago. And I called one of the gentlemen up at Harvard just to make sure that it was a valid report. And like I said, I'm going to share it with you all. It's going to mess you up. That the whole rules of entrepreneurship, Dr. Gatewood and Dr. Myles, were different than when we became entrepreneurs in their system. Now, here's what we've got to do. I believe it's our turn, our time. I think that America realized that we're going to, in the next 5 to 10 years, more of a blended society. I think you're going to see the lines of racial demarcation change like you've never seen it before, because there are more interaction of ethnicities, both from dating to marrying, like you've never seen before. So we're going to have more of a blurred lines when it comes to that. Now, that being said, the African American may never ever get its reparation, but we should at least ask for our recovery. And I say that, Dr. Gatewood, because when you say reparation, a lot of people, I wasn't here, I don't know. Okay, well, you know what recovery means. So at least if you can't give us what we know is due us based on the fact that we built the country, how about helping us to recover from all of these problems you see we continue to have? Because it just logically doesn't make sense that we're the smallest population on many fronts, but the largest on everything that's bad. Have y'all ever noticed that? 13.4% of the population. Yet we're the worst when it comes to education. We're the worst when it comes to the prison system. We're the worst when it comes to entrepreneurship, when it comes to business. Why is that? Because their system, Dr. Gatewood, is designed for that to continue to happen. So we've got to be influential enough politically, and it takes all elements. Now, I was asked this question, Dr. Myles, I don't mean to be elongated here, so you cut me off at the time.
That's what we're here for. That's what
yes, sir.
That's why I got you and Twitter.
I'm sorry. So anyway, I was asked this question out of Gatewood about us having different organizations and how we could work together. I said, well, that's simple. See, everything starts with a strategy first, okay? We're the hardest working, most creative people on the planet, but strategically is the one thing that sometimes we fail to understand, that you got to have the strategy before you start with the tactical implementation elements. So they asked me, how did I think all these different organizations could come together and work together? I said, that's easy. I said, you got the Army, you got the Marines, you got the Air Force, you got the Coast Guard, and you got the Army. And now you got the Space Force, right? There's 6 branches. All of them have their own mission, but they ain't got but one objective. And that's to make sure that America is safe. All of us can have our own mission, where it's the NAACP, where it's the Urban League, where it's the MFL. We can all have our own missions, but the objective all should be us using our resources to lift us and not worry about others' resources. Because you see, their resources will come to us, and we've shown that they will come to us because they recognize the amount of resources we have. That's why we spend so much. As long as we don't own anything, we will continue to be in the same position we are in now. And Dr. Myles, that's why the MFL is so valuable. And that's why I'm honored to be a part of it.
Well, you both said it. We are, Black people are the biggest consumers in America. We have nothing to show for it. That's what makes the MFL so important, the laboratory of change. And I have to take a yell out and give my good friend. We played ball together, even through high school. Kevin Coates, what's going on, my brother? Appreciate you tuning in. But we have to understand that those days are gone. We have to understand, as you stated earlier, Mr. Forbes, we have to understand that strength in numbers. And what makes the MFL so unique in the laboratory of change, because there's no glass ceiling here. And as you say, Mr. Gatewood, information is power. They cannot say they did not know, or we did not convey that information on business, entrepreneurship, internship, opportunity for coaching, PR, marketing, GM, even for players. The MFL is beyond the field. And that's something that, I said that, you look at every type of major business, being dancing, music, sports, is us. But we own none of it, Mr. Gatewood. So these are the types of things that I frown on, but I ain't got time to, should I say, let it worry us, because we have like-minded people such as yourselves and a part of the MFL that we pushing on. Going to Africa, that's unheard of. Nobody expected us to do that. Or it always tickled me when me and Mr. Forbes go to places and he introduce people, they always ask and say, well, who is his partners? And they'll look at him and say, you don't have no partners. Why is it people always think that, I want to get that to you, Mr. Gatewood, why do they always think that Black people not capable of doing anything of certain magnitude by themselves?
Well, we have to keep going back to the origin and look at some of the underpinnings of what holds this society together. And communication is a big part of it. We look back through history, we look at every major institution, everything that has gained any type of real traction. Hey, Mr. Myles, I see your mouth moving over there. I'm not sure which one of us you hear.
No, I can hear you, but it's just that the weather problem. So continue.
Okay. Looked like we were talking at the same time, but like there was a delay. Okay. Yeah, but communication. There's been a willful misinformation campaign since we've been on this planet, basically, and particularly since we've been in this country. You look at if you take the current situation, there's about 2,500 talk shows in this country right now, and about 90% of them are conservative, what we call right wing, which leaves such a small percentage, about 10%, actually putting out the type of information that the MFL, Market Pulpit, is putting out here into the atmosphere. That has a profound impact on people's belief systems, their engagement, their confidence. And so what you see is there's constant chipping away of what you can do and what you believe and how far you can go. And so that's had a profound impact. What I like about what what Melvin said was he was in this chat, and what they did, they had to take a step back. And sometimes we have to do that as a society. We have to break that shackle of dependence. And to do that sometimes it's painful. And most of us have not been willing to take that that step back. We're not ready to take that lick, that hit. And so, I mean, I use myself as an example. I mean, I had a nice 6-figure job and man, really living the good life. But I was in that mental check, just Mr. Forbes. I decided I need to leave the big house and get in that check before I can regain my independence. And yes, for a while it was painful. It was painful. I'm living on a half of the salary that I was living on before. But like Mr. Forbes in that check, eventually, if you can just take that hit, if you can suck it up and get ready for that body blow, eventually when you come out of this, you're going to be stronger, standing on solid ground. And that is what we have to do. But as I was saying earlier, we have to make that message. We have to keep putting this message out here. We've got to wean ourselves off this system that does not love us. We've got to build our own institutions. We've got to hire our own people. We need MFLs. We need to bring in our people. We need to do those glass ceilings. So my point is, Dr. Myles, is that this is a problem that has many legs. It's like an octopus. We have to keep tackling them all on a concentrated front. So the MFL is fighting it over here, and like Mr. Forbes said, we have the NAACP here, we have the Urban League here, we got the National Urban League, we got the
SCLC.
different organizations.
Yeah, different organizations.
All of them. We have some out here who are taking different approaches. We got some we have some we call the tree shakers. Some are the hell raisers. What is that? The fundraisers, the hell rakers. But we all have to point it in the same direction.
That's right.
We have to keep doing that. It's a process. It's a process. But I'm glad to see we're making progress, though. Yeah. I see the MFL as a big step in the right direction, where we're not only looking at making an impact here in the United States, but bringing in the brothers and sisters from overseas, pointing us all in that same direction, as Mr. Forbes said.
That's right. Ms. Myles, Dr. Myles, can I make a comment?
Absolutely.
I don't know anything that started that didn't fail before it started. Most companies will tell you that they had all kind of challenges. Now, there are different challenges. Dr. Gatewood, you're right. Only those who risk going too far will ever know how far they can go. And risk is something that most of us are a little afraid of doing because of the comfort of where we are. But it is those who take that risk that perpetuates the progress for others. Martin Luther King took a risk, and we know what his fate is, but because he took that risk, we are able to be further than we are had he not taken it. Now, we know that there is casualties and war and life, but for certain, we know that none of us came here to stay. Sooner or later, we're going to leave. So we might as well do something worthwhile while we're here. So it's better for those who are coming behind us, just like our parents did for us. My parents, if they were alive today, they would think they were living in a different world with all this technology. A lot of this never even existed. There were no cell phones and no laptops, and the fact that we can see each other like this, the only thing they saw was a black and white TV, and then later color. So the world has changed. And that brings me to this point. Because the world has changed, we have other means of communicating because of the social media, the network, the platform, the web, that I was fortunate to be part of helping create, never knowing that it was going to be as impactful as it is. So even though there's a lot of miscommunication, I think the more that we can get our young people to understand just how powerful they are, and we got to connect them with what we know so they don't have to think that they're reinventing something. And the reason I say that, Dr. Gatewood, because during the summer, when a lot of the unfortunately shootings and what happened to George Floyd occurred, a lot of young people didn't realize that this was nothing new for our generation. And I had to help them understand that this was something that was happening before you were born. You just didn't know it because we shielded them from it because it was so daunting and so devastating that sometimes we didn't even want to think about it. I told a doctor recently, Dr. Myles, that every African American suffers from PTSD, just like soldiers. I said, when you think about what we have done, what we've had to go through, just going out at night and getting back home safely, making sure maybe if the police stopped us that we did the right thing, and even if we did the right thing, we weren't sure we were going to get back home safely. So we've had to overcome a lot of things, but by the grace of God, hard work, we're here and we ain't going back because you can never put spilt milk back in a bottle and toothpaste back in a tube. So we ain't going back, we're going forward. And I believe that programs like this, you know, the institution of the MFL will be a launching, it's already a launching pad, but it's going to be a historical milestone in the revolution of change. That's why we call it the laboratory of change, because it's more than just about football. It's about beyond the field, which we've always talked about. So we have an opportunity to bring more people into this circle that are in those institutions, especially in the college institutions and in the entrepreneurship. I think as we go into 2021, we'll look at how we can get more people involved in really understanding the economics of the MFL, just like the economics of the NFL. And so that's one of the things that strategically, Dr. Myles and Dr. Gatewood, with your help, we're going to push that even more into 2021 with this new administration, is that here is an opportunity to create other opportunities in jobs because these big corporations are shutting down. I mean, you've got just a few, Amazon, Walmart, Facebook, but a lot of those other mid-sized companies really have collapsed. So what we now have to do, again, is create another system that will birth industries that will create jobs. That's where I think we will flourish, because we always have, whether it was in sports, whether it was in apparel, whether it was in food, no matter what we do, we take it to another level, and the MFL is going to go to another level in 2021, sir.
Well, you know, that information you gave is power. I want to touch on two things, as you stated earlier. The great thing about us, I said, thank God for social media, but now we control the narrative. And to touch on what Mr. Gatewood said about, you know, people, you know, moving from into a shack, but you realize that the work you put in, it was yours. And the fact that y'all left these big jobs with these big salaries, but although you was making all this money and stuff, you did not control anything in terms of if he had a bad day, he could come and fire you, Mr. Gatewood. But I always wonder why people, I get so sick and tired of people telling me, well, you know, I'm getting ready to retire in 2 weeks, and man, I'm gonna sit back. You could live off 2 paychecks. How you gonna live off 1? So this is a great opportunity to take this money that you're gonna get, hopefully, and take it and make it work for you.
That's right.
And, you know, as you know, we having Mr. Gatewood here is priceless, because we educate people about business. It's something we don't understand and know, not business, but business. You know, then you have someone that if you took these classes, you have to pay for this information. Mr. Gatewood give me. But here at the MFL network and inside the MFL, we're giving it to you free. Now, what you do with it is up to you all. But the fact that we're giving it to you, hopefully you understand what we're doing. And as Mr. Forbes said before, we just got to understand that, man, we standing on people's shoulders. These people end up losing their lives for what they believed in, just so we can say, wait a minute, maybe we can do it a little better. You know, our concept, maybe the concept be a little different. Because as Mr. Ford tells me all the time, because you my complexion don't make you my kind. And we have to be very careful with that. You know, Mr. Gatewood? But more importantly, Mr. Gatewood, you know, these people, and I know you hear people all the time, and I let me rephrase that. I don't mean to say these people, because I'm one of these people, and I don't want to sound uncouth and uneducated. I think we win. You know, I don't want to talk crazy like that, but, you know, it's sad to think about so many people are retired, got some money, but as you know, money don't stand still. Either you're going to spend it or you're going to let it work for you. Maybe just, if you could just go into that briefly, Mr. Gatewood, and maybe somebody out there hear what we're saying.
Well, I appreciate what Dr. Ford said about strategy. That seems and I'm not one to beat up on our community, but I do see a lot of the shortcomings, and a lot of it's, some of it's cultural, some of it's just plain people have hard heads, they don't want to listen to people. But there's so much involved in strategy. You have to have a plan, you have to know where you're going, and you have to realize that you don't have all the answers. Now, I had a very interesting week last week. One of my clients called me, and I sent him the invoice, and I was very generous. I said, here's my invoice. This is how your money's been spent. So the first line of the invoice had strategy, consultations, planning, budgeting, and that was really the smallest amount. The rest of it was the implementation, the web, the design, the so forth. And his question wasn't, man, I'm glad you did all this strategy and planning for me. It was, you mean you charge for phone calls and meetings? And of course, now of course, I tried to put myself in his shoes and understand what he was asking me, but it was so symptomatic of some of the challenges we have in our community that we so undervalue strategy, planning, looking things and coming out the right way. And so what I finally had to tell him is, look, I don't know, the best way to put this to you is that's the most important thing you got out of the whole invoice. Because if we just go out here and just start throwing money, just because we see something we like, something that's chatty, something that's new, we're going to keep digging ourselves in this big, big hole that we have found ourselves in for years and years. Once again, we have to go back to communication, education. That's why I spent the last 10 years as the host and producer of the Marketing Pulpit show, and the last year as a co-host on the MFL, is trying to educate people the importance of doing it right, to have a plan, to have a strategy, to have a mission, to be pointing that energy into the right direction. And I do admit that during this pandemic, and like I say, I really feel my heart goes out to the people who suffer, people who've lost their jobs and loved ones. But there has been a shift in the mindset. I'm starting to see some positive headway, because people they realize what they were doing was not working. As Mr. Forbes said earlier, it just wasn't working. The system wasn't working. It was not serving our interests. And so people, their antennas, they are starting to reshuffle the deck and look at things differently. And Brother Myles, I do see, like the old spiritual says, I do see better days are coming. They really are coming. And I think 2021 is going to be a very interesting year. We're going to have some tough days. Dr. King said there's some difficult days ahead, but there's also, as I stated earlier, sometimes you got to go back to that check before you can move into that big house that you actually own. And I see that happening in 2021 on many fronts.
And, you know, Mr. Forbes, you know, I just think that right now, is the time, because me and Mr. Gatewood, we talk about this all the time. This is not the time to stop and be cautious. I made a statement. I don't know if it scared people or what. I said, but you understand, is money in chaos. So we have to learn to understand what do we need to do to take advantage of this situation and not let the situation take advantage of us. And when I say that, to say we didn't stop doing anything. There was Mr. Gatewood. We kept pushing forward. We couldn't go into studios and stuff, but what we did, we still got our message out. And I'd say it one time, if I say it 1,000 times, thank God for social media. Because now people hear us not only local, but not only throughout the country, but the world. And as you know, Ms. Ford, in talking to, I get a lot of messages. People, when are we coming to Africa? We're not having the problem that y'all having over there. I'm like, wow. We have to be very careful, and maybe you can go in that briefly, Mr. Forbes. Some countries we can't talk to, and you can explain that to them.
Yeah. Well, listen, first of all, everything we do is based on not checkers, but chess, not a sprint, but a marathon. We know that it's not something that you can just all of a sudden flip the switch and it's going to happen. The only place I've ever found success before work is in the dictionary. So we're working it, as you said, Dr. Myles, you've never stopped working, and you're working it every day. And you're right, you can take chaos and turn it into cash if you think beyond where you are. But once again, I can't put enough emphasis on not thinking that you're going to profit from a system that has not allowed you to profit. And Dr. Gatewood, you're absolutely right. A change is coming. In fact, we're seeing the change. We have saw some of it over the summer when people were tearing down institutions and statues that they have found out it's true that they said the truth will set you free. Well, a lot of these young people of all ethnicities discovered that a lot of the history that had been taught to them was fake news, for lack of a better word. It wasn't true. And they started to realize that their lives were very different than an African-American person of the same age group. And when they started to see for themselves, because one thing about social media, what used to be when you had to wait till the news came on at a certain time, now we know we do have CNN and we have other 24-hour news stations, but with the social media, you don't have to wait anymore. Not only can you record the news, you become a real-time reporter. Right on site with these cell phones right here. So now, all of a sudden, what used to be wondering what happened based on someone else's word, everybody got a cell phone. And the first thing people do now is pull out their cell phone. When an incident is about to go down, you think you're in a paparazzi. People be pulling out cell phones faster than they pulling out their wallet to get money at the bank. So my point being is we have an opportunity now with all the chaos, because when the dust settles, the question is going to be asked, where do we go from here? Amen. And I think strategically, we will be in a position to say, we know where we can't go, and that's backwards. So since we can't go backwards, let's move forward. Now, do we have all the answers? Absolutely not. But here's what we do have. We know that we've got enough faith facts to sustain us, that has sustained us, to take us from where we are to where we need to go. And we're not doing it based on what somebody said. We still here. Now, Dr. Gatewood, you're right. I left a 6-figure job, and people thought I had lost my mind when I left them. They said, why don't you just take a year sabbatical and then come back? Well, that was good. I took a year sabbatical and traveled the world and spent their money. Well, it wasn't really their money because they still were paying me. So it was their money, but they owed it to me. So I took a year off, traveled the world, and then came back and turned my resignation in because I realized even the more that what I was doing, I couldn't pass it on to my son. I couldn't pass it on to my daughter. Nothing that I was doing or had done was for now. I'm not discounting. In fact, not everything is for everybody. Not everybody is built for entrepreneurship because entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. Some people need a 9 to 5. They need that kind of structure.
Feel safe.
Yes, sir. But for those of us who are trailblazers, see, Richard, Myles, Dr. Gatewood, y'all are trailblazers. You all ain't got a problem with saying, oh, yes, we can. And not only saying it, then you go about doing it. So I think where we are with a new administration coming in and hopefully with the COVID now about to be subsided, I know we still got a long way to go. And I know we got a vaccine. So what we have to do, though, is be in a position. See, it don't take a long time to make money. It takes a long time to get in position to make money. And I think once you're in the right position, you can do that. And I'm going to end on this. But money is like blood. It was made to circulate. If the bank just took the money and left it in the bank, it would make no money. So what they do, they take the money and reinvest your money for others, right? With other entities, with other companies and other. So it's always doing this. What I'm saying is, let's take our money and let's get our resources and talk about what we have versus what we don't have. And if the bank that we are using don't treat us the way we need to be treated, then we go somewhere else where it's more appreciative.
Amen.
Mr. Ford, but and I wanted to say to our GM, Chuck Marlowe down in there in Georgia, the Georgia Warriors, listening. But they get in so we can get these people on your show and really give them in-depth information on the market pulpit.
Well, thank you again, Dr. Myles. Thank you for allowing me to help spread the word on the Inside the MFL radio show. I was listening to Dr. Forbes talk about social media and yourself. I like to tell people this, and this is something they can live by. Don't let social media use you. Use it instead. Social media is not a tool. It's like a tool. You can make it into a toy, or you can make it into a tool that can actually generate income. So I said, don't spend all your time out here fooling around with foolishness. Social media is a powerful tool, but it can be used against you if you don't use it properly. So I would like to say that. And also another thing that Dr. Forbes was very important. Everybody's not meant to be an entrepreneur, but there's always something you can do. You can do something. You can support the businesses that are doing it. You can continue to educate yourself. You might not have a legacy to pass on to your child, but you can actually teach them the power of entrepreneurship and make sure they understand, have that information. Now, we're glad to help share that information every Friday on the Marketing Pulpit TV and radio show, every Friday at 10:30 a.m. You can go to marketingpulpit.com and you can see that we have just go through there and flip through those shows. We have the titles on each show. We may be talking about scaling your business on one week. We may be talking about social media on another, building networks and stakeholder relationships. You can just flip through there and get that information and then catch us live every Friday at 10:30. Mr. Myles has been a guest, Mr. Forbes. So just come on there and find me. And this Friday, we're going to be talking about getting ready for 2021. We're going to give you some concrete strategies on things that you can do going into 21. I'm going to dust off what I call my 10 commandments of marketing. And some of these things are foundational, no matter what era you live in. These things are timeless. And so that's how you can find out more about me and my show. And like I said, once again, just glad to share the stage with you, Dr. Myles and Attorney Forbes.
And also, you can also look the MFL up. Our website is mflishere.com. We're on all the social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. I'll show the MFL sports TV show and radio show on Saturday mornings at 11 o'clock, DC Radio. But more importantly, I want to thank Mr. Forbes, our Chief Strategy Officer, because he's so busy doing so many things for us. I always like to rope him and catch him sometime and bring him on. And of course, with our money guru. But I just want to, in closing, before we go, I got a couple more minutes. What do you guys, and this had no bearing on, we're not telling nobody whether you want to take it or not to take it. I know I'm not going to take it. How do you guys feel about it? Any one of y'all go
about
first.
The vaccine?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it is an individual. Just listen, when they stick that needle in each person's arm, they don't do it simultaneously with someone else. It's your arm and your arm only. So I think it's an individual choice. I think that medicine has come a long way, but I think it has to be done based on your belief and your feelings. And we know the history of medicine for this country as it relates to African Americans. So there's some skepticism. But I will say this. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn when I say this. So Dr. Gatewood, you keep me straight. I don't remember us curing anything in this country since polio. Now we treat a lot of things, but we cure very few things because we can't even cure the common cold. They said, take 2 aspirins and, get some rest, call me in the morning. So this vaccine surely has some benefits, I believe, but I believe it's also an individual choice for each person. That's what I believe.
Well, the way I look at it, I think it's great that there is a vaccine, but I think it's unfortunate that we have to look at something that's supposed to be working to our benefit through the prism of a history that has traditionally worked against us. So we do have I don't knock anybody for taking it. I don't knock anybody for not taking it. And like Mr. Forbes said, we are really put in a precarious position. We are facing a pandemic that has taken 300,000 lives and has been disproportionately affecting us. So we should be the one rolling out the red carpet and saying, hey, line me up, stick me in the arm. But because of history, and when you run things through the prism of racism, white supremacy, and some of the challenges that we've had in this country, even the most benign things that we should be celebrating, look at with skepticism. And that is the tragedy of what racism and bigotry has done to this country, so that we can't even celebrate. We should be out waving flags in the street saying happy a jubilee. But that history is a beast. It's a beast because we know it can happen again. So I'm with you, Mr. Ford. That has to be an individual decision. And I don't knock anybody for taking it. I don't knock anybody for refusing to take it.
And in closing, I just want to say I was not being duped into making a statement, because I had some media call and ask the MFL, and I always refer him to our Chief Strategy Officer, Mr. Forbes. And since he didn't say anything to me about it, apparently they didn't call him.
That's correct.
And something that, so my thing is, what you are right, both of y'all, Mr. Gatewood, because, we got to understand, if you don't learn about history, history will repeat itself. So you duped us one time, you ain't gonna dupe us again. So these are, like you say, we're not telling no one not to take it or to take it. It's up to the individual. So in saying that, I want to just say thank y'all, my guests, for being on today. And I want to say to MFL Nation that you have been watching another edition of Inside the MFL. We'll see you Friday. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.